Okay, you guys, this is the HK770. Not very many people know that this rifle even exists or is manufactured by Heckler Koch. It uses the exact same operating system as the MP5 that everybody's very familiar with. So in the late 1960s, 1970s, HK wanted to diversify its portfolio. That's essentially what came with the HK770. It's based off of the exact same operating system or design of the HK G3, which was first introduced in the early 50s. So the G3 had a very reliable track record. It was a very heavy gun, but it was tried and true at that point. They pulled that cycling system out of that rifle and put it into this, the HK770. The 770 was designed to be a more sporterized rifle at the time. They wanted to use the reliability of the G3 that was tried and true through all conditions and terrains and put it into a sporting rifle for people that would last, obviously, exponentially just as long, just because of how good of a track record the G3 had at its time already. The HK770 was in production up until the mid to late 80s or so. At that point, single shot bolt action rifles had gotten very, very popular. Importing these with this operating system weren't nearly as popular in the US commercial market as your Remington 700 Action or Mauser Action, a much more simpler design than this. So for some, this was very, very cool. They wanted this just because of the battle-proven design that it was based off of. On a scalability side of things, it wasn't as feasible for HK to continue manufacturing these and importing them into the US, which led to their discontinuation. Just wanted to touch base a little bit on it and its history, not super deep in its complexity, but just to give you the origin story of where this rifle came from and the heritage that's already behind it. So we'll take this out to the range and take it for a spin. We'll go and shoot this thing. Okay, you guys, we're out here in the desert. Got the 770 with us. We're only gonna put a couple rounds through it just because this is a collector's piece, definitely, but I'm pretty curious to see what the recoil impulse is gonna feel like where it's roller delay. We had one little malfunction.
The brass spot like flew all the way over there. That is the most brass ejection distance I've ever seen.
Should we see if it'll go straight up?
Sure, go for it.
Let's see what the brass does. This thing chucks brass. It's got a good ejector on it. Whoa! Holy! That's crazy. Maybe we'll show you guys a clip of the projectiles. It's having a couple feeding issues, probably just from the shape. It's newer, soft points, and there's a lip on the bullet itself. It's a very, very reliable system. This is a really cool gun, so I'm glad we were able to bring it out today. We've got our mag release right there. We'll make sure it's clear and safe. Locks back in the rear just like that.
Yeah, and so your safety is also right along here on this side, as Emerson was showing. Mag release is there, and then hopping back over, it's a very simple bolt release. You just push down on this tab here, sends the bolt home.
It's pretty soft. It's interesting. I haven't felt anything like that before.
Push down on this tab here, sends a bolt home.
Oh, another failure. Yeah, having some issues.
Yeah, not liking this ammo too much.
These are 180 grains too. My guess is the overall length of the projectile, maybe in the weight, maybe with the magazines, where this gun is so old. My guess why it's having a little bit of issues.
Oh, no, that was empty. I mean, recoil impulse is not bad. That trigger is extremely responsive. It is a little bit different being that roller delay design. The recoil impulse is not like a traditional bolt gun or, if you will, like battle rifle style. You know, this is a lot older. I mean, overall, it feels great. I'm still amazed by how the brass is being shot all the way over there. Kind of wish we had, you know, maybe better ammo for it so it can run consistently, because obviously I think this is more of an ammo issue we're running into, not necessarily a gun issue. I bet if we had, you know, proper ammo, at least enough ammo to make sure this gun's running properly, yeah, I think it would have been a lot cooler. But still, what a beautiful rifle, great to shoot, great feeling. And yeah, no, this thing's freaking sweet.
Yeah, it's soft, I'm impressed.
Yeah, very, very soft.
Okay guys, so the HK770 uses a totally different operating system than what we're more familiar with in the US. Unlike standard bolt-action rifles, this uses the same design as the original design for the HK-G3, the military battle-proven rifle, or the MP5, which a lot more people are familiar with. It uses a roller delay locking bolt mechanism. As we grab this charging handle on the side, flip it to the side just like a 91 or 93, and then pull this back, it locks back in the rear, and then there's your bolt release. But the bolt head looks very similar to a 91, especially just because the caliber is the same, the 308. It is a very, very battle-proven design. The 770 has two siblings originally, which were the 630 and the 940. The 630 was made about the same time as this at its origin. That was chambered in 223, and then the 940 came out a little bit later. That was chambered in 30-06 with a little bit larger receiver to handle that caliber. They were all discontinued around late 80s, maybe into the 90s. Overall, a very, very cool platform just because it's a battle-proven design. It's a totally different recoil impulse on a bolt-action like platform rifle than an HK91. It's essentially putting a 91 and then a Remington 700 kind of together, 2 in 1, which is very, very cool. Unlike every other bolt-action that we have here in the US, it uses a totally different safety selector here on the left side. They meant for this to be quiet for hunting, sporting purposes. It wasn't necessarily thought of being a very quickly accessible safety or fire mode. Because with that, they also had the SL6, SL7, which was more of the carbine style, Parkerized versions of these rifles, mostly in Germany. They had a little bit different iron sights. They were made a little bit more durable. And like I said, they were Parkerized instead of this bluing that we have on the 770 here. And really quick too, one thing I wanted to point out, a lot of these parts are really, really, really difficult to find today, especially this fire control group. It is a different mechanical system than the 91, 93, the MP5 that used a trigger pack. They made these more of a bolt action style. Obviously, it's not as heavy of a trigger pull, it's mil spec. It's a completely different design that makes it a much lighter trigger for hunting purposes, essentially. And then a little bit more on the operating system. Here is your magazine release. So you push that in, and that's what releases your mag. A lot of people that do have these rifles choose not to shoot them, play with them, do anything with them, just because parts availability is really, really hard to source or find. So if you break anything, good luck. You're gonna have a pretty tough time finding some of the parts on this rifle, especially these magazines. They'll go upwards of $500 just for a 10-round mag. Firing pin, obviously the fire control group, and then this proprietary ring or QD ring setup that we have here, made by HK. It uses this latch. So pull that latch down, the optic will come off, and this was apparently, we haven't tested this, a very reliable QD optic mount, as the return to zero was apparently very, very accurate and repeatable. No matter how many times people take this on and off, traveling, hunting, whatever, an overall very repeatable gun. The barrel is a little bit different. It's it uses a fluted chamber, so where it's an auto-loading rifle, it's semi-automatic. Each case that ejects from this rifle will have small lines around the outside of it that are the gas, essentially. So that gas in the chamber, once the bullet is fired, it almost creates like a small vacuum that free floats the brass. So then as it ejects, all those lines are noticeable once you pick up your casing. And some people had a tough time reloading this rifle, the ammunition for it, just for that very reason, because they wore in a little bit differently and it could eat brass a little bit quicker than your standard bolt action 308 rifle. It uses a hexagonal polygonal rifling that is obviously different than many standard riflings that we have here. It's called hammer forged, and they designed it so that it had a tighter gas seal, so you maintained higher velocities throughout the entire rifle without it cutting into the bullet and having some deformity, just to maintain consistency in repeatability in your accuracy shooting the firearm, especially as it got hot. It had integral, as you can see, like a small flash hider or a small comp in a way. There are a few different designs between the SL6, SL7, and some of these sporterized firearms here in the US. They had, all of them, to my knowledge, had a rear, either a folding sight right here or the rotary sight, which was more common on the SL6 and SL7. And then on this, we have just the beaded front sight, whereas the 6 and 7 had the hooded front sight. So side by side, you're able to tell one was definitely pointed towards more of a police or military duty rifle. This was much more pointed towards a sporterized hunting rifle for the commercial market, essentially.